They were ready to move on from Shedeur Sanders, not publicly, not officially, but internally. The shift had already started because heading toward the NFL draft, Shedeur Sanders was no longer being treated like the clear quarterback direction. The confidence wasn't the same, the positioning wasn't the same, and then suddenly, that changed. Now it feels like the situation isn't moving away from Shedeur Sanders. It's being pulled back toward him and the part that doesn't make sense. How fast that shift happened, because when a quarterback goes from maybe to you have to decide now. That's not normal, that's pressure, and right now Shedeur Sanders is creating it for a moment. Everything around Shedeur Sanders felt like it was slowing down, not collapsing, just cooling. The conversations became quieter, less certain, less direct, and that's usually how it starts, especially this close to the NFL draft, because teams don't openly say they're moving off a quarterback, they just stop reinforcing him, and that's exactly what it felt like Shedeur Sanders was drifting into that space where a quarterback isn't rejected, but isn't fully backed either, and for teams like the Cleveland Browns, that space doesn't last long because the Browns don't operate well in uncertainty at quarterback. They need direction, they need control, and for a moment, it looked like they were preparing to move in a different direction away from Shedeur Sanders, not because of one big reason, but because of small, accumulating doubts, fit timeline projection, the kind of doubts that don't make headlines but change decisions. And then he pushed back, not with words, not with statements, but with presence, because suddenly, Shedeur Sanders wasn't fading from the conversation anymore. He was re-entering it, not quietly, and this is the moment everything flips, because now it's not about evaluation anymore. It's about control. NFL teams build their decisions around controlled timelines, controlled messaging, controlled outcomes, but quarterbacks can disrupt that, and when they do, it creates friction inside the organization. Right now, Shedeur Sanders is doing exactly that, because the closer we get to the NFL draft, the less time teams like the Cleveland Browns have to stay undecided, and that's where the pressure starts to build, because internally, decisions are already being framed, boards are being set, scenarios are being mapped, and once that process begins, teams don't like changing direction. It introduces risk, it creates disagreement, it forces people to defend new positions, and that's where Shedeur Sanders becomes a problem or an opportunity, because if he's re-entering the quarterback conversation this late, then he's not just being evaluated, he's disrupting alignment, and alignment is everything for a team like the Browns. Front office wants long-term stability, coaching staff wants immediate control, ownership wants results. Those three things don't always point to the same quarterback. This isn't about talent, it's about timing and organizational alignment. And right now Shedeur Sanders is sitting directly in the middle of that misalignment, which means one thing: if the Browns hesitate, he gains leverage, and once a quarterback gains leverage, the decision stops being clean. If this situation continues to shift towards Shedeur Sanders, then the Browns are being pulled into a decision they didn't fully plan for, and that's where mistakes happen, because now you're not choosing from a position of clarity, you're reacting to momentum, and momentum can be dangerous, especially at quarterback, because this isn't just about who starts, it's about what direction the entire organization commits to. If you move towards Shedeur Sanders, you're accepting the timeline that comes with him: development, adjustment, uncertainty. If you move away, you're choosing structure, predictability, control, short-term clarity. But here's the tension: what if the safe option limits you and the risky option forces growth? That's the decision point, and right now it feels like Shedeur Sanders is pushing the Browns closer to that edge, not by demanding it, but by making it harder to ignore him. And when a quarterback becomes impossible to ignore this late in the process, it usually means one thing: the decision isn't coming later, it's coming now. So the real question isn't whether Shedeur Sanders deserves the opportunity, it's whether the Browns are ready to take the risk, because once they choose, they don't just define the quarterback situation, they define the direction of everything. Sometimes teams think they're controlling the process until the process starts controlling things. Shedeur Sanders forcing the Browns into a decision they can't delay anymore.